This is Keith Jowers with Dads for Life, and this is the Dad Connection podcast. And I want to thank you for joining us here for this particular podcast. So we're going to talk about something that we all do, that we all use, and we all are actually, using pretty much every single day, and that's communication. But when I talk about communication today, I want to actually talk about our children and how it's applying to our children, especially as they grow older. If you're not communicating with them, I can assure you, dads, that somebody is communicating with them and putting possibly the wrong information into their heads. So, let's get started. We want to thank you for joining us today and actually being a part of Dads for Life. I have our Facebook group, Dads for Life Live, to my right here, and they know that we are talking to the podcast audience today, but they're actually listening in as well, so it's kind of exciting. So I wanted to just talk about communication with you and your children. So first of all, welcome to the end almost of 2022, right? Can you believe it? We've got 2 years behind us from the pandemic that affected our world, and some of us it affected personally. And, so we have to pick up from there and go forward and see exactly where are we going from this point. Did we learn something? Oh yeah, we've learned a lot, haven't we? So, and that's where a lot of communication that was wrong was being kind of sent out, and that's where communication is so important, because when you talk to your children, you want to make sure they understand what you are trying to convey to them, right? So that's the tips I have for you today, as we're going to talk about communication. First of all, thank you. Thank you for all the support that we've received at Dads for Life over the last 19 years. Yes, we're going into 19 years of helping encourage, enhance, and enrich dads in what we consider their greatest asset on earth, and that's their children. And we've tried a lot of things that didn't work. We've tried some things that did work. And now we're going to be trying some new things as we close out this year and go into the new year. And I wanted to just thank you. We are opening a division somewhat of Dads for Life called 425 Productions. You can see my sign behind me, Studio 425. Well, that is because my grandfather and grandmother lived at 425 West 61st Street. And on that porch of 425, Grandpa and I talked a lot about honesty and just about treating people right and doing things to the best of your ability, and in our different conversations we had over the years. And as I was building Dads for Life, my wife and I, for the last, 17 years at the time, I started thinking about, okay, I want to do some productions. Well, I'm an actor, and I've got into some acting and movies and so forth. And I wanted to decide that I wanted to do some dad commercials. So now we've started Dads for Life. We'll be starting 425 Productions, where we're going to be producing commercials that dads can be, uplifted somewhat, because a lot of times dads are torn down, aren't they? But we want to make it a point of dealing with dads, dealing with their children in life, and doing different special things that actually are going to come across in a video form. So that's where 425 Productions is going to be helping us out with that. And people can donate to 425 Productions just by simply going to our dadsforlife.com, and they can help us as a nonprofit to make these commercials. In addition to that, we've also started writing a screenplay for a movie that's going to it's going to be working and showing how dads and their children react, and how you, dad, can actually be a huge influence in the life of your child by just being there. So our movie will actually show you the results of those dads who are involved in their children, and of those dads who are not involved in their children, and the outcome of those. So we're working on that for later in 2023. But to begin, we've already started processing with actually talking about doing these commercials. I've got a producer that wants to do that for us, and we're really excited about where we're going to be going in 23 for Dads for Life. So today I want to talk about communications. And I could tell you that without communication, none of us would be able to communicate, would we? I mean, I've got a few things here I've listed that I want to talk about how dads can communicate better with their children. And number one, let's talk about how effective this can be. Just take time to listen to your children when you talk to them. And what I mean by that is they sometimes can say some pretty important things, but we don't always listen, do we? We say, oh yeah, sure, whatever. And then, but it's not really registering what they're saying. Our 9-year-old granddaughter can say some pretty interesting things. So I'm taking the time now when I do converse with her just to listen and see what she's saying, and then to see if I can interject a point of wisdom for her at that age, right? So I want to say number one is just take time to listen to them when you're talking to them. It's kind of insignificant to you possibly, but daily interaction and knowing that someone's listening to you, just like it is for us, right? When your child knows that you're going to be listening to them when you're talking to them, it's pretty important to them. Number two is watch what you say. Sometimes we say things, especially in the heat of the moment or something, when your child makes you upset, and you don't really mean it, but you say it and they take it in. They take it in pretty hard. So you want to make sure that you are not doing that. When you're talking to them, and even though you're trying to discipline them somehow, but you don't want to do it in a heat of anger or something like that. You want to make sure when you say things that it is in love. Even if you're disciplining them somehow, it is in love, because when you do that in love, then you know you've thought about it before you possibly say it. Number three is that you love them more than you feel like sometimes that you possibly don't, right? You want to love more and help your child understand that love is very, very important. And when you do that, you're going to show them that there's a better way. There truly is. I mean, think about it. Let's say you're driving down the road and all of a sudden somebody cuts you off. All right? How you react sometimes. If your child is in there, they're going to see how you react to that. And if you just kind of just take a breath, think about it, back off the gas a little bit, let them go on their way, like I did this week in my vehicle. I just backed off and let them just go on instead of getting up there and starting some kind of road rage situation or whatever. If your child is with you when you do that, they're seeing that. And our actions, dads, are more important sometimes than what we say. So you want to show them the love way, the best way as possible, is that's by practicing that. So you also want them to know that you love them, that no matter what they do, what they say, you're going to love them. And even if you're in a disciplined mode with them, you're going to have to when you do it in love, they're going to see that you love them. And when you share that with them and you tell them that, and make sure you tell your children daily that you love them. I tried. I was a single dad. A child did not live with me. But when I was able to talk to her as much as possible throughout the week on the phone, I would always tell her that I love her. Number four, if you have a bad day, and we all have them, right? What you do when you get home can be the impact. See, that child has been looking all day for you, or possibly all day, to tell you something or show you something they did at school, or show you their report card. They made A's and B's, or whatever the case is. They're excited to see you. And if you come in directly with a bad day attitude that you had at work or driving home and thinking about that bad day, then they're going to see that. I grew up with that. See, my dad, even though he died when I was 11, my dad came home and he was having bad days sometimes, and some days he was intoxicated, and it was really rough on the family, and how he reacted when he walked in the door. So you want to make sure that what you do, even if you're having a bad day, is that you try not to bring that stuff home and let your family see that. So number 5, notice your child often. So they grow up feeling very special and they feel loved. When your child does make good grades, or your child does do something special at the house, or helps mom clean up, or helps you clean up, or whatever the case is, they just go a little bit extra, then you want to show them the appreciation for that. Teach them that when you do a little bit of extra sometimes, that, it is appreciated. And a lot of times people don't appreciate. They don't say thank you enough. A lot of people just expect things. And when somebody goes the extra mile, it's like, well, whatever. But when your child does that, just show them it is always important to try to go that extra mile. So number 5 is just notice them as they grow up and they do things special. Make sure you pay a little bit extra attention to them. Number 6 is play often with them. I mean, truly do. When you play often with your children and you let them laugh and have fun, and you wrestle with them, or whatever the case is they like to do, just play often with them. When you do this, they get to throw off some steam, you get to throw off some steam, and you just have fun. And I remember one time just wrestling around with our daughter. She was growing up, and we just laid on the grass and just laughed. So when you do that, sometimes it's good just to let that steam out and just laugh. So, and you want to, if they're into sports, if they play soccer or they play baseball or whatever, make sure you play that with them. And don't promise them something that you're not going to deliver. Oh, I promise you we'll go do this Saturday, or we'll go do that this coming week when you're off from school or whatever, and we don't do that. Sometimes we just forget about it, or life happens, or we think there's a better priority that day. But there's no better priority than your children. None. Because when it comes time to have them walk away because they're adults and they go off to college, or they go off to get married, or whatever the case is, then you look back and kind of like Cats in the Cradle by Harry Chapin's song. You look back and just wish you had done things different, because now their life is pretty busy because we've taught them how to do that without slowing down sometimes. Number 7, tell them about your life. Not all the bad, not all the skeleton stories. I'm just saying, tell them about things when you're trying to discipline them sometimes, of how maybe you didn't do some things sometimes and their grandma or grandpa had to discipline you. But tell them about your life, but also tell them that your hopes and dreams. This helps your child to know you as well. We live in a wonderful country. And today I see groups of dads that have gathered to teach their children about this wonderful country, and not leave it to the school board to teach them about this country. And that, to me, is so important, is that you teach their children about the history of our country and the freedoms we have, and the men and women that have died for it. As a 20-year veteran in the military, I can tell you, even though I never saw active war, I've known there's lots of men and women that have died for the freedom of our country that we have. And it's so important that our children know that. Number 8, talk about your relationships and how you feel. Recently, I had a friend for 25 years really, really bother me. I mean, he really let me down. He took advantage of me. And now he ignores my phone calls, he ignores my texts, he ignores my emails, he ignores my direct messages, because he knows that he's wrong. And I'm not looking to just chew him out, but I want to talk to him and say, really, you're going to just like destroy all these years of friendship because of your greed in that moment. So, but talk to him about relationships. Maybe you are a single dad and you're meeting, Miss Wright, or, that's a big step. I know our daughter was 5 years old when I met her stepmom, and I knew she was pretty special. So it came time for them to meet. Well, they met, and they had a interesting few meetings of just getting to know each other, and it was just fun to watch because I knew she was special. And she knew our daughter, my daughter was special. So it just worked out. And here we are 35 years later. So you just pray. And then when you bring your daughter, your children into that mix, make sure it's just the right thing at the right time, and God will bless it. So number 9, volunteer together for a community project, maybe at church or maybe outside of church, maybe at a homeless shelter, or you're feeding. Thanksgiving's coming up and you go feed the homeless together on Thanksgiving Day or something. Do something that's really special like that, and I think that will help definitely increase your communication with your children. And tell them why you're doing it. Because they're for the grace of God, go us, right? So you want to do something very special with them. It opens up their doors and exposes them to new things and things outside of their life. You know, I've seen children in public and they throw these temper fits because, you know, mom or dad don't get the cereal they need or want, or, you know, they can't get a Wi-Fi signal when they're trying to play their games or whatever. And I mean, simple things that really mean nothing, do they, in life overall? I mean, I grew up without internet or any of those kind of things today, and, you know, I had fun. So we have to teach our children there's more to life than the conveniences they have, right? And when you go out and volunteer for a homeless shelter, or you do a missions trip together or something, then you can tell that it really opens up those doors. Number 10, ask your child to make a dream list for their future. What's going on in their future, their life? What do you think they want to do in life? Do you know? You might want to just talk to them about that and help them plan that. And I remember when I was younger, our daughter was about 9 or 10 years old. I took a 3x5 card like this, and I said, just write me out, you know, no more than 10 things you want to do in life or whatever. So she did. I was trying to teach her about goals. And she wrote down, actually, I want to go skydiving. In parentheses, she put, with Dad. And I'm going, what does this mean? She said, well, I want to go skydiving, Dad. Let's do that together. I go, not at 10 years old. You're not going skydiving. We're not going to do that right now. So thinking she'd forget about that at 21 years old, okay, she calls me and says she has a reservation to go skydiving, and she made me a reservation along with her. So I'm going, really? Let me check my calendar here. But I went, and we did it, and we were the last 2 of the day. It was a beautiful sunset and everything. But she wrote it down when she was 10 years old on the card. So what I'm saying to you is teach them about setting goals, and one day they may come to pass, and you're actually in that, right? You're going skydiving. Yeah, that was fun. All right, so we'll move on. We're talking about communication today, guys, and I can tell you that it's so important that when you communicate with your children, that it turns out that down the road, one day you're conversing with them possibly, and they're kind of talking about some of the stuff that you taught them because you taught them well through communication. So I just hope that you got something out of our little communication on this podcast today. And I hope that whatever you do with your children, that you just do it with the best of your ability and with God's speed behind you, because life is short. I'll tell you a story. And I'm dedicating this podcast to my wife's nephew. He is in his mid-60s, and less than a month ago was found out that he had cancer. And it's been pretty hard on him for 3 or 4 weeks now, and the family and everybody's adjusting to it, right? They've been communicating about it. That's the thing. They're communicating about it. And we love this man, love him deeply. And he loves the Lord. He loves his family. He loves people he don't even know. When they walk into his shop, they want him to wait on them because they know him. But he says it's all in God's hands. And even though they've consulted with hospice right now, our brother Bill is good spirits. And he says, hey, we all have a short life if you think about it. So I dedicate this podcast to our brother Bill, Hannah, and we love him. We love him deeply. because he loves so many people. And the Bible, even assures us if we want to have friends, we got to be friendly, right? Well, he has a lot of friends. He loves a lot of people. He loves everybody, really, even if you do him wrong. So, and just as I think that as we go through life and people come in and out of our lives, we have to show them the best we can the love that God has shown us over the years. Our scripture today is Ephesians 6:10, is be strong in the Lord and his mighty power. And our nephew Bill believes that God's mighty power is still strong regardless of where he's at in this situation. But we're still holding on to hope and faith that God is going to move mountains. So, and he said even to me recently that I'm healed either way. And he is. And if you don't know the Father that he's speaking of, it's easy to find him. You just ask him to come into your life and show you a better way, forgive you of all your sins and past transgressions, and he will make a way. You see, dads, you can't always learn to be a better father by coming to know the true Father. And Jesus will make a difference in our lives if we let him. So until next time, this is Keith Jowers of Dads for Life saying, go out and encourage, enhance, enrich the life of someone today or tomorrow. Make sure you start with your children because they truly need it the most. May God bless you. Bye-bye.